25 years ago, I was a student and I was a beginner at karate. I was in a karate class. And there was a culture in this karate class that my teacher had built up where everybody was really, really keen. So whenever he asked for a volunteer, like 6 people would jump up, yeah, we're all really keen, we're all really into it. So when we went to other clubs and when we were in competitions or whatever, we looked really intimidating and really, I suppose, looked more skilled or we looked good in front of other clubs because we were all so into it because this culture had developed. So in the middle of this class where we had all sorts of different, all different skill levels were there. I was a yellow belt, which was like like a real beginner. You'd just done your first exam where you'd proved basically you knew what a punch was. That was, you were right at the beginning. But there were also people in this class who were like blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, almost a black belt. So anyway, so the guy asked for volunteers and well, I jumped up with all the rest of them. Yay, let's do this. But I didn't know and part of it was that you jumped up even though you didn't know what he was going to ask you to do. So we had just been learning this new kata, which is like a sequence of movements. It's a bit like the karate equivalent of like a set dance. So you had to remember all these moves and do them really well. And he asked us when we all jumped, I'm standing there in the middle of the room with 6 other people who were like blue belts and whatever. And he says, I need you to perform this kata for everybody. And I was like, ah! I'm like, the most basic beginner. I can barely remember this thing from beginning to end. So I'm like, oh God, and I can't sit down. I've got to do it. So what am I going to do? So I was like, okay. And I had all these like brown belts and black belts watching me. And I stopped and I thought, okay, I've just got to do this. So I was like, okay, just breathe. I can remember, I was like looking at the others out of the corner of my eye to remember all the moves, and I'm just like, okay. And I just like did it, and just slowly. And just very slowly and gently just did the moves one after another the best I could, and just did it at my own pace. Really slowly, just did it at my own speed and just, okay, I'm just going to get through this and it's going to be fine. So I got through and got to the end, and a really strange thing happened. One of those brown belts who'd been watching, this was a guy who was studying right now to take his black belt exam. He came up to me afterwards and he was like, that was incredible. I really learnt something from you. I was just watching you and you did that kata so slowly and you took your time and you did it just each move one after the other as best you could at your level, and you just took it at your own pace and you owned it in your own way. That was amazing, because I get so focused on being perfect and doing it how the teacher wants me to do it and doing everything like a black belt and doing it right. And I forget that I have to do it in my own way, in my own style, and just take it at my own pace and not get intimidated about this black belt exam I've got to do. I've just got to go at my own pace. And that was incredible. I really learned something. Thank you. Thank you, actually. And that was the most incredible experience for me, because I realised that even as a beginner, you have something to offer, and not just to other beginners. I mean, it's well known that you may have heard me say before that if you're a beginner, if you've got the courage to ask a question, then other people probably had that question too. Other beginners probably had that question too. But you forget that you may have something to teach to the people who are way ahead of you on the road. So just keep that in mind, that when you don't have the courage to speak up and to share your experience and to ask your question, you may actually be taking something away from other people around you, and maybe even people who have more experience than you. So never be afraid to be a beginner. and to be learning at your level and to be sharing what you're learning at your level. Because you never know what you may have to offer other people around you. You never know what you may be denying them by keeping your experience to yourself. So do share. Don't be afraid to be a beginner. Okay? So I'm Kathy Hay. I hope you found this useful. Leave me a comment below and tell me about your experience as a beginner and sharing your work. And do some sewing this weekend, why don't you?